The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. It is Thursday, and we are going to be with you live for the next 2 hours talking about autism from a 360-degree perspective. So whether you are a parent, teacher, practitioner working with an individual who's on the autism spectrum, or you yourself are on the autism spectrum, I guarantee you today we're going to have something that's going to be of interest to you. In fact, our show is so packed end to end today, I don't know how we're going to squeeze it all in. We have four guests with you today on 4 entirely different subjects. You're not going to want to miss it. Some of it very controversial, some of it very enlightening. So, having said all of that, I want to remind you that this entire show is meant to be interactive. We hope that you will participate, give us your thoughts, your suggestions, your comments, gripe to us. Hey, open forum here. Emily's going to show you some of the different ways that you can be in contact with us here at the show. I'm going to remind you, if you go to www.autism-live.com, that's our homepage. There's a whole lot of things you can find there, including a link to our blog, but you'll see a computer screen there. That is a place that you can watch the show live. It is by no means the only place you can watch us live. But the extra added bonus when you go to Autism-Live is there's a lovely white box next to that screen. That is an interactive box. Put your cursor there, type away whatever you'd like, hit enter, and it shows up here on my screen, and we can talk about it during the next live show if we're not live in that moment. There is no fee for doing that. There is no login process. You don't have to remember a password. How nice is that? We are not asking for your private information. No one gets to know your credit card information. You are completely anonymous when you're doing that. So feel free, you can ask whatever question you want, even if it's semi-embarrassing. Now, on the flip side of that, though, important thing to remember is that we don't have a way of getting back to you. So if you want us to email you something, you will need to send your email address. We have a way of editing that out before we show it to the audience at home, which we do. We keep all of your information private as it should be. So I hope you will participate. There are many other ways to participate, and you can watch us live on YouTube now, which is a wonderful thing, and we are able to allow you to watch us live on all of your devices now, whether it's a tablet or your phone, you can receive our feed live. And that's a wonderful thing. I always like to remind you at the start of the show that while I host this show, I am not an expert in autism. My credentials to sit in this chair, I'm a parent of a child who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5. And I smile because he's 10 now and he is doing so remarkably well. And the reason why he's doing remarkably well is because I was fortunate enough to get information at the right time from the right people to lead me to the right services and do the things that were great for my individual son. And part of why I'm here is to pay that forward. So I want to help you to find your way to the answers that you're looking for, because heaven knows there are a lot of answers out there about how to make progress and how not to be disabled by autism. There are a lot of ways to be differently abled that are exciting and interesting and fulfilling. So that really is is why I sit in this chair and why I'm passionate and what I'm passionate about. I hope that you'll participate with us. Let us help you to figure out what your next step is. So having said all of that, before we get to the treadmill of guests that we have today that I'll tell you about in just a few minutes, we like to start every morning with something we refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym, and try to make sense of it within our worlds. For most of us, when we began to understand what autism was, we didn't already have an advanced degree in psychology, psychiatry, or autism. And we got a lot of catching up to do in terms of jargon. If we do start to understand these terms, and believe me, for the first 2 years after my son was diagnosed, I was in deep, deep resentment. Anytime somebody said something that was jargon riddled, I would become absolutely militant and inform them that they needed to speak to me in plain English. Then I began to see that I was kind of gumming up the works, that we could get more done and quicker if I would start to learn what these terms meant and how they related to my son. And so I offer that up to you, and we do this in a way that hopefully it's quick and painless, right? Right? Just like we teach our children, a little bit at a time. And eventually, over time, I see it in the questions you guys ask, that you're now using the jargon and using it appropriately. It makes me very happy. I'm so proud of all of us. None of us planned this, right? But we're trudging along. Okay, so today's term is visual motor skills. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. I've been talking about this a lot. It's been coming up a lot. Because I didn't realize that my son had visual motor skills, and it impacted a lot of different things. So let's take a look at what our actual definition is. The actual definition of visual motor skills utilize the parietal cortex, here we go, already I'm lost, the cerebellum, brainstem, and frontal lobe to create full integration between visual perception and motor skills. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why we have a second definition that puts it in a working definition. The working definition of visual motor skills deal with a child's ability to make sense of visual information and then use it appropriately for a motor task, such as writing, playing sports, using tools and utensils. If you have ever had any kind of a visual or inner ear disturbance that involved your vision, you know that it makes it really difficult to do anything. There are certain times a year where, because of my allergies, I will get extra dizzy, and it involves my vision. I don't understand the whole ins and outs of it, but it makes it harder for me to do a whole host of things. It makes it harder for me to walk down a narrow hallway because it makes me dizzy. Everything feels like it's tilting. Imagine for our kids, if they're having any kind of visual motor and we're trying to teach them fine motor skills, like handwriting and how to pull up a zipper, or to be able to use their eyes to be able to read. If they've got any kind of visual motor disturbance going on or any kind of a deficit, for some of our kids, their ability to use their binocular vision is off. And the tough part about so many things with our kids is that, but especially I think with visual motor, is how are they going to tell us that something is off? With visual motor, they don't even know that it's off. Their view of the world, they think, is everyone's view of the world. So if they're seeing two of something every time they look at it, they're not going to run to us and say, how come I'm seeing two when you're seeing one? It is not until we take them to a specialist to get them looked at, or until they've gotten enough visual motor and enough of perspective taking to begin to understand that they're seeing something different. And that's way too late to catch it. Way too late to catch it. I've shared on the show that we didn't realize until my son was 7 or 8 that he had a visual motor problem. Although he had a lot of the symptoms of it, we had a great deal of difficulty. He was kind of clumsy. We had a great deal of difficulty getting him to ride a 2-wheel bicycle, even with training wheels. His handwriting was atrocious. But some of the other things that we would expect, like a delay in reading skills, wasn't there. My son was a great reader early. So that kind of threw us off the trail, right? I would encourage urge you, if your child is having difficulty with any kind of motor skills and you've worked on them and you feel like they can do the actual motor skill and yet their ability to access and do it at the right speed seems to be delayed, it might be worth your while to get your child looked at for visual motor skills. Because here's the great thing. There are exercises that they can do that can improve those visual motor skills. I shared that on the show that when we finally took my son to the expert and I watched him, the expert had a stick with a gold ball and a stick with a bronze ball, and he was moving them and asking my child to follow them, and my child was sitting in the chair and going like this to try to get his eyes to focus, and the only place he could do it was out of the corner of his eye, which began to make sense for why when my child was little and he would look at things, he would look at them out of the corner of his eye. Something we see in a lot of our kids with autism. I understand that it's another doctor visit. I understand that it has to be the right doctor who's patient enough to be able to do the testing and do the testing properly. And that sometimes your insurance won't cover the whole amount. But believe me, and I said this the other day, if I could do it over again and take him earlier, boy, it's one of my big regrets. I would absolutely, because it's where he is having to catch up the most is on the skills that he couldn't learn because of the visual motor. So I throw that out to all of you. Check what the situation is, and if you feel it even slightly in your gut that might be a component, I want to urge you to go and see someone who's a visual motor expert in your area and get that taken care of. Begin working on those skills. You'll see a huge improvement. Very exciting. All right, moving on. We always have a question of the day that we like to start out the morning with. We enjoy it so much when you answer the questions on Facebook and when you tweet into us or write in on the live feature. Today's question is, how are you working on visual motor skills? Because even our kids that are developing neurotypically, they need to work on visual motor skills. Early on, I can remember when my son was in the high chair that we were told, to take something and put it on the end of a pencil and go like this and see if our child could do it. But there are more things that we can do beyond that. So my question is to you, are you working on this? And if so, how are you working on it? We'd love to hear about that on Facebook a little bit later on. All right, we always have a topic of the day, a topic of the week, as it will. And this entire week, while we're talking about a great many things, we're spending a little bit of time on building different motor skills. And we've talked about this week the fact that there are so many different motor skills. There's gross motor skills, which involve the big muscles in the body. There are the fine motor skills that we talked about the other day, the things that you do with your fingers and your hands. Today we talked about visual motor, and tomorrow we're going to talk about oral motor. And it is amazing to think about, there are skills that we want to give our children, and sometimes the skills have to do with how they're thinking and how they're learning and information that they need to gain and be able to put to work in their environment. But the motor skill is a really important part of it, because if they can't do the motor, a child can understand, oh, this is a key and it goes into the lock and I need to turn it this way and able to enable me to access this room. They can have a comprehension of that and they can remember it, right? We could teach all of that. This is what a key does. This is the label for a key. This is how you use it, and this is what will happen as a consequence of it. And it's important to teach all of those things. But if the child can't motor through it, then we haven't sealed the deal. So we do talk about motor skills, and motor skills are, think of all the different things that you do throughout the day that involve motor skills. It's a place where we drop a stitch. Are any of you knitters? My mom would knit constantly. And when you get to a point and you realize you're 4 inches into the sweater and you realize there's a hole there because a stitch was dropped, and you have to go back and catch that stitch. It might mean unraveling some stuff or doing something different, but you can't have a sweater with a hole. Our kids can't be holy sweaters. If we drop a stitch someplace, we have to go back and pick it up so that we can get to those higher skills and not have the holy sweater. So really important that we talk about those motor skills and utilize some of their valuable time on working on the motor skills. It also helps for the anxiety too. So many of you write in and talk about how you have anxiety or your kids have anxiety, and every expert will tell us you can turn on the TV for 20 seconds and they'll tell you that exercising is one of the best things. Moving those gross motor muscles around is one of the best things that we can do to help combat anxiety, to make sure that it doesn't happen, and when it is happening, to relieve it. So let's not poo-poo the motor skills. They're really essential. Some of the different things that we're going to be talking about today, I mentioned that we have four guests today. I think, because they're four separate segments, I think that's a record for us. I really do. So starting off in the order that they're going to be here, Ahren Hoffman from Lekotek is going to be with us. And I mentioned her earlier in the week. Lekotek is amazing. You've seen before on the Toys R Us differently abled guide to toys. Those toys are all reviewed by Lekotek. They go through, look at toys, and try to see if a toy is going to be beneficial to kids with different abilities and give them ratings. It's just so much fun to talk to them about toys and how toys can be used. So Erin's going to be with us today and talking about that. And then she's going to be back to join us again in November, because we're doing the Festival of Toys the week before Thanksgiving, so that you're ready for the big Black Friday and any shopping after that. And Erin will be joining us then as well. But she's with us today and going to tell us about the mission of Lekotek. Really excited about that. Julie Kornack, who is a policy expert, is going to be with us again this morning. She's going to be giving us an update on some of the different bills, in particular the self-determination bill that is here in California and is up for a vote. So we're going to get an update from her. And as I always remind you, how California goes in terms of legislation is often a precursor to how other states go. So it's important whether you live in California or not. And then, very special treat, right at the top of the second hour, we're going to have Matt Asner from Autism Speaks. He's going to be with us here. Matt had contacted me and said, Shannon, I want to come in and talk about this guest assistance pass from Disney, because as we reported, Disney is putting out information. They've given us an official statement saying that they worked with organizations such as Autism Speaks on their new policy, which they're not really telling us what the new policy is. There's a lot of speculation, but their sort of panacea for the whole thing is, well, we've been consulting with Autism Speaks. And Matt has some things to say about that I'm interested to hear. I want to know, how much did Autism Speaks have to say? How much did Disney listen? Does Autism Speaks know what has been decided? So Matt's going to be here to talk about that. And then a little bit later in that hour, we're going to be joined by BCBA, Board Certified Behavior Analyst, Angela Persicke. We're going to be talking a little bit about motor skills with her, but we've got a bunch of your questions that she's going to be taking on that you've written in the last week. So all of that and your questions throughout this show, it's a lot. I'm excited. Stick with us. We're going to be right back after these messages.
The month of September, I figured I'd show you guys how to make a task completion chart to help your kids get through the hardest parts of the day. Parents have been writing into our host, Shannon Penrod, the hardest parts of the day are waking up in the morning, after school, and getting ready for bed. Please keep in mind you can always modify the task completion chart to focus on the skills that your family needs most. The template we'll be using today to make the task completion chart you can find at facebook.com/autism-live. All right, let's get to it. The materials you'll be needing are the template, cardstock, scissors, hole puncher, glue, pipe cleaner, Velcro, and photos or images. We find it more reinforcing for kids if you use images of themselves doing the task that you're trying to get them to complete. So what I have here to start off are photos of myself doing all the tasks that we're going to add to our task completion chart today. The first step you're going to be doing is printing the template from facebook.com/autism-live. I have it here, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trim out the top. We don't need that, that's just totally excess. Now that I trim my 3 templates, I'm going to label each one with a different part of the day that we're focusing on, such as waking up, after school, and getting ready for bed. Now that I've finished labeling the templates with the appropriate time of the day, I'm going to attach the photos that go with it. For bedtime, the tasks I chose were getting ready for school, putting away toys, putting on pajamas, and brushing teeth. Now repeat this for all the rest of the day. Now that I've added the photos to the template, I am taking this along with my heavy cardstock to hold all my tokens. I'm going to line them up and make 3 hole punches. I'm going to take this pipe cleaner and attach the pages together with it. We're almost done putting this together. Next, I'm going to take my Velcro. I'm going to put them underneath each picture. And then I'm going to add 4 on the very edge too. Now that I've attached the rough side of the Velcro to the template, now I'm going to take the softer side and add these to the tokens. You can use whatever you want for the tokens, whatever your child finds reinforcing. They could be stickers, images, spacemen, Pokemon, whatever they like. Before you use your task completion chart, it's really important that you do a preference assessment to see what your child finds reinforcing that day. Once you have that established, then you can tell them the rule for how this task completion chart works. So every time they get one of their tasks completed, they add a token to it. And the way the task completion chart functions is like a token economy. So after they put a token under each one of these tasks, they can trade it in for their reinforcer for the day. Now that you've made your task completion chart, hopefully your child will be able to use it on a daily basis and help them through those difficult times of the day. Well, until next time, craft on. Bye, guys.
Can you see me flying by your side?
Welcome back to Autism Live. Joining us via Skype right now, our very special guest, Ahren Hoffman from Lekotek is with us. Erin, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
We're so thrilled to have you. Now, Erin, I need for you to tell us, what the heck is Lekotek?
I love it. Thanks for using our little slogan. So Lekotek, the National Lekotek Center, is an affiliate center of 16 different sites throughout the United States that offer toy lending and resource libraries to families that have children with special needs. So they get the opportunity to come to our centers 1 time per month for an hour, and they get to play with specialists, as we call them. And the play specialists are kind of prescribing them toys, for lack of a better term there, that are fitting the needs that they are working on developmentally. So families get to take these toys home for the month, and they get to play with them at home after the things that they've learned at our Lekotek Center from our play specialists, and come back the next month and do it all over again. So it's a lot of fun, and our families really enjoy it for their pocketbooks. We have toys that are right off the shelf from, Toys R Us or Target, but we also have a lot of adapted toys, which are really great for our children that have some more needs and need some toys that are adapted with bigger buttons or different switches on them. So we have a lot of opportunities for families and a lot of toys in our libraries.
And you also review toys as well.
We do. Able Play is a project of the National Lekotek Center, and we review toys from the toy industry of all different companies, and we get to use those toys in our Lekotek sessions with our families, and they're always excited to give us feedback, and then we can provide that feedback to the company that we're working with. And they can tweak the toys, and they can use that information to help market and let families know that this product is really great for their child that has a disability.
It's a remarkable service that you guys provide. How can people find out more information about Lekotek?
So definitely go to www.lekotek.org, and that's Lekotek.
Great. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to ask you some more questions about what it's like when a child comes to one of your centers and this whole process of lending toys, and also talk a little bit about the Toys R Us Differently Abled Toy Guide and how you guys have been involved with that.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. So stick with us. We're going to be right back with Erin after these messages.
kind of lights up when she comes here. Has a big smile on her face and knows that it's going to be a time for fun. Kind of integrates her therapies that she has in with play and how we can kind of motivate her more to practice her skills through toys and through the enjoyment of play.
We try to get the toy and like a family time, and we play together with learning. We see they're growing together more. As before, it was a little bit like not sharing like that, but now they are getting more together.
We really love the adaptive toys they have at Lekotek. I think it really helped Amelia progress in her development. She started reaching before she wouldn't reach. She started looking at objects, at the toys. She started noticing cause and effect when she would use the adaptive toys, and I think that was a really great resource for us as far as helping Amelia along with her development.
Borrowing toys from Lekotek also it's great for our pocket. We save a lot of money. Plus, she doesn't get bored because every month we borrow from Lekotek 5 toys. So that's great.
It's also been helpful coming here and then learning how to use them more effectively, so that the toys that you have, you're able to make sure that you're using them in a way that's not only fun and enjoyable for her, but also helps her from a therapeutic standpoint to help her grow more.
I didn't know how important is play with children to make them learn until I started coming here. She has been learning how to be more independent. She has been more confident, and that makes me so happy.
Thank you.
Welcome back. We have with us Ahren Hoffman from Lekotek, and we just saw that amazing video, and I said I wasn't going to cry, and then at the end, you know, there it is. But Ahren, what a cool job you have.
Thank you. It is really rewarding, definitely, on a daily basis. Families teach us a lot, and we hope to teach them in return.
Well, it was amazing to see the kids and to see them interacting with the toys, and both Emily and I were commenting on, you have some cool toys.
We do. We have lots of toys in our library, probably over 6,000 toys, and with the help of our Able Play project, we're able to continue to update our toy libraries and introduce new toys that are new to the market, and great fun new toys from toy companies that they create, you know, all the time every year. So we're always happy to get new toys in our library. Our toys do see quite a bit of love as they get loaned out each month. So we do have to, you know, really watch our toys and make sure that they're still safe for our kids to use, and exchange them out of our library when needed.
So tell me about this process. A family comes to you and they recognize the importance of play skills, because I think that has to be on board first, and anybody who is not on that page, you know, that quote at the end of the video really brings it home. When we give our kids a chance to play, we really open up a world for them.
Yeah. You know, our families come here and we really try and work with the other therapies that the kids are in. If they're in speech or OT or PT, we can really, you know, connect with those therapists, and we can utilize toys to help them achieve those milestones that they're working on in their other therapies. So, it's kind of in disguise because the families are using these toys with their kids, and the kids are motivated by those toys, and it might be more fun for them as a family, especially because we do include siblings and parents and grandparents, whoever wants to come to the session with us. It's a little bit different because at their other therapies, they're individual in those therapies. They don't have their mom or dad or sibling there with them to help them reach these developmental milestones. So the toys are really helping them do that, and we just, as you know, we have so many toys to try and with the kids and help them, reach milestones.
So a family, they make an appointment, they come for the session, they can bring the whole family with them. And how often would they come for a session?
Yeah, so they actually would be in a 1-year membership. So the family would come one time per month for an individual family play session, which is an hour every month. And, families come, now that school is back in session, they kind of had to redo their schedules where they might come after 3 o'clock after school gets out. But we are very flexible with seeing families and like to see them on days that work for them. So we do see families on the weekends as well because it works, better for their family schedule and their dynamics. And then after the session, they get to take the toys home for the month. So they see us one time per month minimally with their individual family play session. And then, as I said, we have 16 different affiliate sites. So everyone does a little bit different with their extras that they offer per month, but the national site and other sites, we usually offer at least 2 more events per month, which would be a parent support group and a play group.
Okay.
And so siblings and parents are invited to all of those. We always offer something for the sibling that does not have a disability along with the child that has a disability, and then something for the parent as well, which are great for networking and meeting new families that have similar family dynamics.
Well, Erin, bless you. It just sounds so exciting. And again, we'll have Emily put up the place. So you have 16 different sites around the country that people can go and do this.
We do, yes. We do have 16 sites currently, and we have a couple of new sites on board that we're going to be launching here soon. So we're always looking to add new Lekotek sites to our offerings.
Okay, I love it. And then let's take just a second to talk about the Toys R Us Differently Abled guide that we all sort of can't wait for it to come out every year.
Yes, this year has Gabby Douglas on the cover from the Olympics, so we're excited to have her on the cover.
Now, I have seen it online already, but I haven't held an actual copy of it, but I know that people can find it online. And you guys are the ones who set the ratings for the toys and say what skills it will build, correct?
Right, correct. So we have the opportunity every year, actually right about this time, where we get to go with Toys R Us and pick out toys from their headquarters that we think might be great candidates for the guide. And then the same thing happens at Toy Fair, which is in New York every year. And we get to walk around different booths there with Toys R Us as well and look at toys that we might have not seen at the Toys R Us headquarters. And then from there, we use all of those toys, which is usually around 300 toys that we get to pare down for the guide, and we use those with our families, and we use them not just at the national site, but we also provide some of those 300 toys to our different 16 affiliate sites because everyone serves a little bit different, obviously geographical location. Some of the ages are different. National Lekotek sees birth to age 8. Some of our other sites see up to age 12, so it varies. So we like to get all of those different feedback from different families with different ethnicities and geographics and all that kind of thing. So.
Well, Erin, I applaud you guys. What the heck is Lekotek? Lekotek is a dream answered, right?
I love the use of what the heck is Lekotek. It's our great little slogan to teach people that it's pronounced Lekotek. So thank you for using that.
No, I was thrilled to hear that. So we thank you so much. And of course, we're excited. We're going to have you back during our Festival of Toys, and you're going to review some toys for us, right?
Great. Yes, absolutely. We'll see you again.
All right. Thank you so much for being with us, Erin, and tell everyone at Lekotek thank you.
Thank you, Shannon.
All right. Take care.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Really an amazing, amazing resource. And if you watch the show at all, you know I'm a big fan of the play skills. They help our children to be able to do so many things. If you think about it, play is a format to work on social skills. It's a format to work on learning. And so many of you write in and say, my teenager only does one thing and they don't have varied skills. If we're able to give them toys that vary their interests, then we have so many more ways to reinforce them and so many more ways ways to fill their free time throughout the rest of their lives. Play, very important. Lekotek, a wonderful, wonderful resource. I hope you'll check them out online. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, our very next guest in the studio is going to be Julie Kornack. We're going to be talking about some really important legislation happening here in California that you're going to want to know about no matter where you live in the world. So stick with us.
And we are here for our Inclusion Film Camp for military children with autism and their siblings.
It was great. We had quite a few returning, but 30 new kids. It was great. We're creating a network, the Inclusion Network, and all these kids are unbelievable. It just gets better and better every year.
Joey Travolta suggested me that I get to teach the animation to some of the people on the autism spectrum. The software I am teaching them is called Flipboom Cartoon, which is a basic animation software. My favorite part of the teaching is to see buddies' best work and their special abilities.
It means a lot to feel like I'm on my show, and I'm proud to see him so showing. It's not shiny work, and I think that's really been important to me. He's blossomed, and I'm just so proud to see that.
Did you love the camp?
Yes, I did very much.
This camp is like a really good book that you don't want to end.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We asked you today, our question of the day, yes, I'm borrowing these lips, how are you working on visual motor skills? And for a lot of you, it's new territory, right? This isn't something that we necessarily talk about endlessly. I don't know why my Facebook isn't working. It's coming up. But visual motor is something that when you get the diagnosis of autism, there's so many other things to keep track of. It's not the first thing that people talk about, right? So it is new to a lot of you, and there's some confusion about, okay, do I absolutely have to work on this? Is it necessary? Not for all of our kids. It's interesting. I was in a conversation in this last week where we talked about, and as I was mentioning to you guys earlier, when you drop a stitch, sometimes there's problems down the road. And I remember somebody saying to me that it's important that a child crawl before they walk, or you'll have visual motor skill issues later on. And my son didn't want to crawl, and a lot of people were saying to me, don't even worry, he's going to walk, it's not going to matter. I made him crawl, but it was only for about a week before he walked, and then eventually we had visual motor skills. So in any case, a couple of people wrote in, and somebody said, I'm not really sure if I'm working on visual motor skills. Today I asked my son's OT if he thought my son's visual motor skills were affecting the handwriting, and he said no. He said my son had come a long way with his visual motor skills. Is an OT who I would ask about visual motor, or should I take him to someone else to be sure? Really, the only person who can effectively diagnose whether you have a visual motor skill is a person who is credentialed in that specific arena. That's a developmental ophthalmologist, optometrist, somebody who has the ability to look at children and there's a specific battery of tests. So while I'm sure that your OT is well-meaning, I also was told by an OT that his visual motor skills were fine. So that didn't quite work for me. So I would encourage you to call a developmental ophthalmologist or an ophthalmologist in your area and say, hey, are you someone who is qualified to not only go through a battery of tests to diagnose a visual motor issue, but are you equipped to deal with a young child on the autism spectrum? Do you understand what that is, and do you have ways? The gentleman that we had do it, and I put in a call to have him on the show, Dr. Larry Simons, here in California. Amazing what he's capable of doing. And I sat in the room to watch the whole procedure because I had asked him, are you equipped to deal? And he'd been referred to us. I said, are you equipped to deal with autism? He said, oh yes, absolutely. But I didn't believe him, right? And he was amazing. He kept my child enthralled. It was like a game for my son, all the different things that he did. And then he was able to explain it to me afterwards. You really need to make sure, and I don't think that they're that's the norm. I think you got to look around, ask for referrals, asking your local parent support group, is there anybody here who's gone through the visual motor? That's what I had to do. And I was told that this gentleman was fabulous. I still asked questions, and he was fabulous. That was Dr. Larry Simons in Los Angeles. If you are in an area and know, make sure that you tell your local support group who is good in your area. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and then we are going to come back with Julie Kornack. Don't want to miss it. Stick with us.
When you find out you're having a boy, you always think like, oh, he's going to play football, he's going to do this and that. And then when he's diagnosed, all those things get washed away.
It's like that piece that's always in the back of your mind, where is he, what is he doing, is he safe?
We really didn't know what we were dealing with. I wish that they could have directed me a little bit more and provided me some information.
I was a young mom. I didn't know what it was like to raise a boy, despite a boy with autism.
Hundreds of thousands of families are not getting the help they need for their children with autism all around the country. ACT Today is determined to bridge the gap. These families really have to go through a lot to get a grant. The application process isn't easy. The records, the diagnosis proof, they're really battling for their kids. So when we can give them a grant, it is so wonderful to see that they succeed in getting that help for their children. Our founder, Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet, is an amazing woman, and she is one of the world's foremost authority on behavior of children with autism. She's extremely knowledgeable, and she oversees every single grant we give. She is part of that process. People may think of autism care and treatment as simply schooling or therapy, but we provide important safety supports, things like fencing, for example. The whole family's living in fear of that child running out into traffic. I recently delivered an iPad to a little boy with some of the apps that are out there for children with autism. Miracles happen.
I got the iPad from ACT.
From ACT,
What
yeah.
did it say? Can you repeat that, Dustin?
I got the iPad from ACT.
We have helped so many military families, and when I think of these brave families that are fighting two battles, one to protect our country and one for the right treatment and care for their children, it breaks my heart, and I think we have to do more as a nation to help them.
There's not a day that doesn't go by that we don't think about it. Some people say, oh, he's normal. You don't see the battles that I see every single day. My husband does have to deploy, and when they get on that bus, that might be the last time that my kids ever see them.
So I called, and they informed me that he had received the grant, which was like a blessing from above. I was just like speechless. I just started to cry because, without it, we would have been lost.
The ACT grant was a total miracle, and without that, they wouldn't be able to receive a service dog. So we're so appreciative what they've done for us as a family.
Recently, ACT Today funded a program for military children with autism in San Diego, the Inclusion Films program, which is run by Joey Travolta, and teaches kids on the autism spectrum literal filmmaking skills. They learn how to make a movie.
Are we ready? There you go, got it. Okay.
Everything that goes into the process of making a film goes into everyday life. So they're learning life skills, they're learning to collaborate.
It was really nice to know how much they were enjoying this camp, and they're with people who are supporting them and are making them feel great about themselves and their differences and their similarities. And I get two kids that are working together and apart and together and apart, so it's an interrelationship as well as a camp and a learning experience.
It's so fulfilling when I get letters. One stands out for me, a boy who was 14 with Asperger's, and we gave him a grant to go to a drama camp. He wrote to us and said, "Dear ACT Today, thank you for letting me belong for the first time in my life." These kids are remarkable. We underestimate them. They're so knowledgeable, they're so capable, and we can change the life of a family, which means changing the life of a community.
Welcome back. Studio Live is Julie Kornack. We've had her on the show before, but welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
It's so thrilling to have you here because you are a policy expert, and heaven knows we need one.
I am excited to be here, give you the information I can.
Well, one of the things that we've been talking about in the last couple of weeks, there was a lot of legislation this year for California.
Yes.
And it was so much of it that it could be overwhelming and confusing, and then things change, and we constantly need updates. And you have some updates on some very important things, right?
We're really excited because we actually have, after going through the long legislative process, 7 autism-related bills survived.
Okay.
And that's very exciting. A lot of them went through the entire process without a single vote against them, which is just amazing. That shows that we have in California enormous legislative support for the autism community. We're really excited about that. But now these bills are sitting on Governor Brown's desk. If you're in California, you know our governor is Jerry Brown. And we want him to sign these bills. And last year, we went through a similar process with some bills that are kind of similar as well. And Governor Brown chose not to sign the bills. So we really need a populist push right now. We need people in the autism community to make their voices heard and to encourage Governor Brown to sign the bills. And most of these bills came out of an autism task force convened by Senator Steinberg to address some of the disparity issues at regional centers. And those bills are all about incorporating elements of linguistic and cultural competency in regional center services. So if your family's not originally from the United States, if English isn't their first language, the regional center can be a little bit more friendly.
Yeah.
So,
one of the things that we know is that depending upon where you live, the services are different for you, right? That's one of the things that, while we don't love it, we accept it in the autism community. But it really is galling to me as a person who has spoke English from a very young age.
Yeah.
Right? It was the only language spoken in my household, and it was tough for me to negotiate the system.
Absolutely.
So what
Great
is it
point.
like for families that English is not their first language?
Well, we have a scary statistic that 79% of all individuals who approach a regional center for help never return after the first visit. And
oh my goodness.
And 50% of the homes in California are Spanish-speaking homes. So if we're not going to incorporate elements of cultural and linguistic diversity, make sure that forms, paperwork, discussions are in the language that the families are comfortable with, then we're never going to be able to really address this disparity issue successfully.
And I think we all can agree that this just cannot continue.
No, this is
I can't imagine anybody being against this.
If you look at, from a financial perspective, if you aren't personally invested in the effort to secure autism treatment for individuals, then you need to look at the financial perspective for a society that doesn't help these individuals. They are just going to end up being a much greater cost to society as time goes by. All the research shows that we need to get help early to people, whether it's autism or anything else.
Okay. We need to take a quick break, but before we go, there's a really easy way that people can show support for this bill and for other bills like this. We're going to post a place on our Facebook where you can go and click on it, and it'll guide you very easily how you can show support. And it doesn't matter if you're in California, you can be anywhere in the world, show support for these bills. It's very important. So check out our Facebook page to find that link. We're going to take a break and be right back with more of Julie Kornack. Stick with us.
I'm Max Burkholder. Autism is a neurological disorder. It's an epidemic that affects more American children today than pediatric cancer, childhood AIDS, and juvenile diabetes combined. But there is hope. Research proves that intensive treatment can benefit the lives of children with autism and their families. ACT Today is a nonprofit organization that provides funding for families that cannot access or afford the treatment that can help their children reach their highest potential. To learn how you can make a difference and help a child, visit act-today.org.
Welcome back to Autism Live. In the studio with us is the fabulous Julie Kornack. She is a policy expert, and if ever we needed one of those, it's now. We need somebody to help us access what's happening in our legislative process. We're talking with her today just about the state of California and some of the legislation that has survived and is now sitting on the governor's desk that people should be aware of. And if you have a voice and want to use your voice, let the governor know this is important to you. So Julie, would you go through some of the different bills and why people would be interested?
Absolutely. I think we've already covered some of those bills that address the cultural and linguistic diversity elements at regional centers. Another bill that people are really excited about is Senate Bill 468, and that is self-determined services, which I know a lot of families have been interested in trying to secure self-determined services, which is something where the families would actually get a budget for the services they need, and they could be in control of the budget. Obviously, there's safeguards in place, but this is one of the better. We've attempted this in the past. This is a great bill. The structure of it is great. The budget is vague enough to make sure that the families get the services that they need, because it says that the budget will be based on the needs identified in the IPP process. So IEP, I'm always getting those things. You know what I'm talking about?
We all get confused about them
IEP,
too.
Yeah. So. But because that was actually a really big concern of ARCA. ARCA supports this bill. ARCA is the Association of Regional Centers. So it has a lot of support. Of course, it has support from the families. It gives the families an opportunity to take those services that may not be provided by regional centers anymore, but that have been very successful and effective in addressing their own child's issues. And they would be able to access those again because they would have control over the budget and be able to make those decisions.
It's really exciting. Now, I know that Governor Brown gets really, tense about being fiscally responsible. So, but there is a reason why this is fiscally responsible, correct?
Well, it's fiscally responsible because it's taking money that would be spent anyway, and it's just actually giving the parents or the caregiver, whoever the guardian is, more control over that money. So the decisions, but there's not more money that they're getting. They're getting this. They're getting the same money. It's the same idea. It's governed by the same rules.
But it's putting it in the hands of people who know what's best for the individual child.
Who has seen, and because autism has such a broad spectrum of challenges, it's important to give that control to the parents.
And we should also say that it isn't. There are guidelines to how it can be funded. Somebody can't just go buy bubble gum and call it the bubble gum technique of treating autism.
There are a lot of safeguards in place. ARCA would not be supporting it if they weren't confident that the safeguards are in place. We're excited about it. We really want Governor Brown to sign it.
It's thrilling. It could be a big boon for families, especially for older kids.
Absolutely. It's really, if you ever had a time that you want to get your voice heard on something that will affect you, as the years go by, this is the time. Let's get Governor Brown to sign this bill. It's amazing that it made it to his desk. And let's get it signed.
Yes, very important. What else on the list should we let people know about it? Does that pretty much encompass
Well, that's an important one. Another one, CARD sponsored. The Center for Autism actually sponsored one of the bills that would allow telehealth. And I think we've talked about that before. But the thing that would be important for parents to know about that is that the parent training that the regional centers require it can often be an obstacle to treatment because the parents can't take time out of their work schedule, or they can't find daycare or babysitting for their child to be able to do the parent training. And so if this bill passes, the regional centers would actually have the authority to allow parents to complete that training online at their leisure, maybe at night when the child is quiet or asleep, and it really gives a little bit more flexibility. So we're hoping for that telehealth bill to pass as well, to get signed.
The reality of a lot of these bills, it seems like to me the running theme through all of them is common sense.
Well, it's common sense, and really the thing that I tell people when they have to talk about these bills and they haven't had a chance to really examine each one is this is all about increasing access to treatment. That's the thing here, is let's make treatment as accessible as we can.
For everyone.
For everyone. It's good for society, it's obviously good for the families and for the individuals involved.
And we've said before on the show many times that the reason why this is important, not just to Californians, but to people around the country and around the world, is that when legislation is passed and it's shown to be effective, it makes an impact, does it not?
It makes an impact, and California can serve as a model for the other states. And once they see that this is a fiscally prudent decision, that our children are doing better, that they're growing up into independent adults and that sort of thing, it really makes a difference. Everybody watches California. So.
Absolutely, because we've been at the forefront. A lot of that is thanks to Senator Darrell Steinberg, and Representative Perez has been very involved and getting things done and furthering things. We owe them a great deal.
We have a lot of support, and we're very fortunate in California that we have a lot of support legislatively.
It's important, though, and I will say this personally, that we get Governor Brown to know that, because he seems to be the sticking point in a lot of the progress that we're making.
Governor Brown, I don't want to ever say that anyone's a bad guy. I think that he's doing everything that he can. The problem with one of Governor Brown's issues with legislation in the past is he's looked at California law and said, well, you're allowed to do this now. You don't need a law for it. But the reality is that regional centers won't do things unless they're told that they have to do it, not because they're evil, but because they're worried that they're making a mistake and they want to hear that they're allowed to do something. And so now the reality really is, even if the law, if you studied it and analyzed it, would conclude, you could conclude that some of these things are allowed, such as telehealth. You would think that it's actually already allowed in California law. The regional centers won't allow it. They won't authorize it unless they're told they can. So they're very small laws that will actually move things along in a big way.
But it's very important that your voice be heard. We talk on this show a lot about that sometimes our kids don't have a voice, that we are the voice for them.
Yes.
Use your voice to speak for all of our kids and encourage other people. Share it on Facebook. We're going to put the link on our Facebook page, but also Autism Speaks has a link where you can go and support California legislation.
Autism Speaks has a link. The Center for Autism will share the Autism Speaks link. This is one of those things, those bills are actually on Governor Brown's desk, waiting for him to sign them. So this is something really tangible that doesn't take much effort, that could change the lives of thousands of people.
And it does make a difference when you call,
huge difference.
Or when you send a letter. I know we all think, oh, does it really make a difference? It does. It adds up, and they're politicians. They're driven by, they're supposed to be there because we voted them into office, and they're driven by what we want, but we have to speak up.
We have the support of our representatives.
Yes.
And the thing that Governor Brown's office is asking is, do we really need this? Is this what the families want? So let him hear that this is what the families want.
Yes, absolutely. And you don't have to format a letter. The letter's already been formatted for you. You can edit it yourself and change it to make it specific for you, or you can just sign the letter and send it off.
Or you can go on Autism Speaks, and then they just have one of those things where you fill in the fields and they add your name to a list, which is also very effective.
Absolutely.
Numbers matter. So if we can get a lot of families to sign this, it's going to make a difference.
Yes. And that, and I always say this to you, when you do something for somebody else, it feels good for you, and there's a shelf life on it. It might be 2 hours. I'm telling you, if you go and do this today and do this for other families, you will feel good for at least 2 hours.
And you don't even have to break a sweat.
That's right.
So
absolutely.
easy.
And it's free. We love
and
that.
It's free.
So, Julie, we thank you so much for coming in and clarifying this for you, for us. We really need you to come back and talk to us about Affordable Health Care Act and how it impacts our autism families.
Absolutely. October 1st, people are going to be able to start accessing the exchanges, and we need to talk about that.
Okay, so can we have you back next week to talk about that? I will look forward to that, because I need a chart. You have a chart, I hear.
I have a chart.
I need a chart. That's exactly what I need. But thank you so much for the work that you do and enlightening us and keeping us abreast of what's happening.
Thank you for getting the word out. We appreciate it.
We try. We're going to go now to the A Word. This is the ongoing documentary being made here by the Center for Autism and Related Disorders following a little boy, Jack Riley, who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. Jack has been having therapy for over 2 years now and is making a tremendous amount of progress. So let's drop in and see how things are going. This is the A Word. And don't forget, when this is over, we're going to be joined by Matt Asner from Autism Speaks. We're going to be talking about Disney's new guest assistance pass, the changes that are being made, and the fact that they're saying that they consulted with Autism Speaks. We want to hear from an Autism Speaks official about what that really means. So stick with us. This is the A Word.
I know a cute little blue-eyed boy, and his name is Jack. Jack Riley. He got a big, warm, blue-eyed soul that makes your heart beat fast. Yes, I do. I say Jack, Jack, Jack is my buddy. Jack is my buddy. Everybody around is so down with Jack.
Jack. That was okay. Try again. Go over there and walk back to her again. Jack Riley, come back and walk nicely to her. Walk nicely. Oh, yeah, high fives! Yay! You did it! She's so happy.
you guys are doing more programs trying to incorporate sister.
Yes, trying to have them tolerate being around her and practicing having them engage in the same activity. For his target right now is 2 minutes, so we're hopefully trying to increase the time. But she's going to be around forever, so we do want him to get used to being around her and accepting that she will get into his stuff every now and then, or all the time. We're gonna do nice playing with Lainey, okay? We're gonna do it 5 times, all right? All right, so you put on a piece and then Lainey Grace can put one on. Yay! Look, you get your first axe. Good job, buddy. We're gonna keep going. That was excellent. Okay, Lainey's turn.
Here goes.
Good job. Okay, Lainey. Okay, I'll help your sister. Yes, a potato head.
Wait, your turn.
Good job. Should we put the ear on, Lainey? Purpose of outings that we go on with our kids is to have them get exposure to the community, and we go with them to assist the parents and to model for them how to redirect inappropriate behaviors when they do happen, how to even prompt the kids to interact with other kids, so when they do go out and we're not there, it's a lot easier for them, and it just becomes more natural for the parents and the kids.
Usually I'm pretty on edge at a park when he walks up to a group. I never know what he's going to do. Sometimes it's imagined, and then sometimes he justifies it.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Joining us in the studio is the fabulous Matt Asner.
Wow.
I love to have you here, and I love to see you, and I love to talk to you. You are an incredible individual and a wonderful dad. I have to say, I've seen you out and about. You're a remarkable dad, and you tell our viewers what your position is with Autism Speaks now in Los Angeles.
I'm the executive director of Southern California. Also do a little work in Northern California and also nationally, but my job is the Southern California executive director.
And that's a pretty big area.
Very large area.
You have are at the helm of the Autism Walk that happens for LA.
Basically anything that happens between the border and a little bit past Santa Barbara, that's my domain.
It's a pretty remarkable area. Now, Autism Speaks is no stranger to controversy. A lot of times
why do you say that,
I know.
Shannon?
A lot of times you guys take a lot of heat, right? And you guys have been taking a bit of heat this week.
Believe me, yes. I was in North Carolina, and I was kind of glad I was in North Carolina for a couple of days because I got a little chance to breathe and look at everything.
And we've been talking about the Disney Guest Assistance Pass here on the show. We talked about it specifically on Tuesday, and the fact that they have made a decision, Disney has made a decision to retire the old method of dealing with individuals who have special needs at the park. They are rolling out a new one on October 9th.
Yes.
And they have been very reticent to give us specifics about it, but they did issue a statement this week saying, well, we were consulting with different groups, but the only group that they mentioned was Autism Speaks.
Right.
And a lot of people are angry.
They're angry at Autism Speaks.
Yes, they're angry about the pass, and they're angry saying, well, if Autism Speaks consulted on this, then they consulted wrong. It's right, but we don't even know how they consulted.
And I don't know how people can say that because I don't think they even know what happened.
We don't know what happened.
So why don't I tell you what happened?
I would love it if you would tell. But you know what? Here, let's do this. Let's take a really quick break, and then when we come back, Matt is going to give us the 411.
Yes, the lowdown.
The lowdown on what happened and Autism Speaks portion of this, what their part in it. So stick with us. We'll be right back.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is the Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism. Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is a visionary in the field of autism, and now you get to ask her questions every Wednesday at 10 a.m. on Ask Dr. Doreen. Welcome back. We have with us in the studio right now Matt Asner, and he is from Autism Speaks, and we have asked him to talk to us about Disney's new Guest Assistance Pass and the changes that are happening and Autism Speaks' role in the changes.
Right.
Tell us.
Well, first of all, I know as much as you do.
Okay.
Okay? And Autism Speaks knows as much as you do. We got... basically, we had been consulting with Disney on a guide for people with cognitive disabilities at their park. So it would make it easier for them to enjoy the park. Mm-hmm. During this consultation, we had them call us and say, you know, we're changing the guest assistance card. We're not going to do it anymore, and we want to run a couple things by you. Mm-hmm. So we'd like to do that. And we said, sure, of course, yeah. And the first thing we said was, okay, are you sure you want to do that? And I mean, I'm a dad. I love Disneyland. Mm-hmm. I take my child there as much as I can. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think I could have taken him there without that guest assistance card. Right. So personally, I look at this and I say, well, you know, I'll have to wait and see. Yeah. I'll have to wait and see what happens. We voiced our concerns about the situation. We did give some notes about what they had in mind. And a lot of it was, you know, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. What they do with that is their choice. We're not partners on this situation. We want to help them. We want to consult with them. Sure. We want to make sure they get it right. We want to make sure they get it right for our families. You know, there are a lot of people who love Disney, who love Disneyland, who love taking their kids there, who love that situation, because it was a great situation. And unfortunately, some bad people did some bad things, and as a result, this is being changed. Like I said, I'm not excited about that. Right. But what I am going to do is I will go there. I will take my child there. I will see if it works for me, and I hope that other families do the same thing. Yeah. You know, that's as far as, you know, that's as much as I can tell you that we were involved with this. Okay. You know, we gave some notes. I think everyone would agree with the notes that we gave. They're completely in line with some of the stuff I've seen out there, some of the less colorful stuff I've seen out there. Mm-hmm. But you know, we care. You know, we care about this situation. We want our families to have a good time at Disneyland. We're not in control of what they do. And the notion that we designed this program, this new program, to replace the GAC is completely asinine. Okay. I mean, we didn't have anything to do with it. We, you know, we gave notes. That's it. Okay. You know, whether they apply those notes or not, that's really up to them. We don't control Disney. They don't control us. Right. We wanted to help them. We wanted to help our families. That's what we did. Okay. So to be 100% clear, Autism Speaks at this point in time doesn't know what it is that Disney is going to roll out on October 9th. They haven't overseen it. They haven't seen the official thing and approved it. No. Okay. That's really important for our viewers to know. What we have approved is a disability guide, is a cognitive disability guide that is being rolled out around the same time. Okay. So I think it's important to mention that. And I really want to talk about something because this whole thing has really bothered me. Okay. Because people have come after me, they've come after my organization, and I just want to say that we're out there fighting every day for our families. About really important issues. Not that this isn't an important issue. It is an important issue because it has to do with our families. But I do have to say that if people came out of the gate with the same kind of energy and venom that they're coming out of the gate with about this Disney thing, if they came out of the gate with, in terms of education, in terms of housing, in terms of employment, I think we'd be in a much better place right now. And so it's surprising to me to see something, I'm not going to call it trivial, but I will call it, it's about entertainment. It's about entertainment. It's about, enjoyment. And I really believe that if people have the same horsepower in their lives about education and about adult services and about early access to care, I think we'd be in a much better place. Well, I agree. If we could channel that energy, there's a great deal of energy this week, and I think this is a wonderful call to action. Let's take that energy, channel it to things to make some more change in some more areas that are really substantive to all. Exactly. Okay. And I feel for these people. I really do. Like I said, I have a son who I would not be able to take to Disneyland without the GAC.
All right.
But I will take him to Disneyland to see what this is like, and I will make my own mind up, and I will decide whether it will be someplace I go in the future or not.
Okay. We appreciate you being here. Can you stay for another segment?
I would love to.
Okay, so we're going to take a short break. We're going to come back more with Matt Asner after these messages. Stick with us.
The Institute for Behavioral Training provides courses in applied behavior analysis for the treatment of autism. Access IBT e-learning videos on the move and learn at your own pace.
I'm going to talk a little bit about intensity.
IBT e-learning makes any location your classroom on the go.
So our objectives for today are to really learn what is autism and how is it diagnosed.
Get professional guidance with IBT face-to-face training. IBT face-to-face training courses prepare you to effectively implement ABA-based interventions. Choose between small group and one-to-one instruction. Earn BCBA supervision hours via one-to-one video conferencing.
So I had a chance to review your BIP today. You know what? It looked really good. You did a good job with it.
IBT continuing education courses. Earn credit through webinars, conferences, article reviews, and e-learning videos. You can learn more at ibehavioraltraining.com. IBT, 360 degrees of ABA training.
Welcome back. We are here with our very special guest, Matt Asner from Autism Speaks. We've been talking a little bit about this controversy about the guest assistance pass. For those of you who are just tuning in and being brought up to speed on this, there is a pass that you can go. It's not widely known about, or it wasn't until this last year.
Until NBC came out with their story.
Yeah, it was a little hush-hush, honestly. We always referred to it as the alleged pass, wink, wink, that you could get, that you could go. And what was lovely about it for me was that you didn't, they took it at face value. They would fill out, it changed over time. They got a little bit more stringent about asking you questions, but they would say to you, why do you need this? What's happening with your child? They didn't ask you to disclose their diagnosis, which I appreciated.
Yeah.
But you could say, when my child stands in line for long periods of time, he completely disintegrates. For me, I would say my child once in line at Disney kicked a little girl because he'd had to wait so long. And they say, well, we're happy to make this the happiest place on earth for you and the people that you're not kicking in line. And there were 6 different passes that they could give you to transfer in different ways that fit your individual needs. Some people needed to be in a stroller up to the gate and count that as a wheelchair. Other people needed other things. And it was lovely. And we always said it truly is the happiest place on earth because we could go and feel like a typical family.
Yeah.
And you said, you know, you took your son and you could do it.
Absolutely. And it was special.
It was.
It was really special. And I think that's why people are so upset. It is a special thing.
It is.
And you know what? We don't get special things.
No.
We never get special things.
Or to feel like we fit in, or that we can access things in a typical way.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so it was a lovely thing, and we loved Disney for it.
Yeah.
And I loved that it was called the Guest Assistance Pass.
Exactly.
It didn't say, you know, you're different. It just, you're a guest.
It didn't say disabled.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so I felt like we were being assisted.
Yeah.
And I particularly loved that. And I went with my child before autism, and it was the happiest place on earth. I went with my child after autism when I didn't know about the pass. It was the worst day of my life, bar none. Left bleeding, kicks and bruises and bleeding and crying, all of us, and then heard about the pass and came back, and that has been our family vacation.
Absolutely. It's been mine too.
Right.
I mean, I take my son, I take my brother.
Yeah.
And both of them have benefited greatly from the GAC. But, and I honestly, and I mean this, I really do believe that they want to give our families a great experience.
Yes.
I really do believe that.
And I will say this, that in all the conversations that I had with very high-ranking Disney officials in the last week, the one thing they kept on saying was, we hope you will trust us. We've always done the right thing.
Yeah.
Will you please trust us this time?
Yeah.
And I said, of course I'm going to come back. As you said, you're going to come back. And I said, but I need to know you're aware of X, Y, and Z. And their answer was, well, we've talked to Autism Speaks about it, right?
Well, they have.
Right.
They have. I don't know if they're going to take what we had to say and apply it to what they're doing.
Right.
You know, but what I can say is that this is an evolving thing.
Yes.
This is not something that's just going to be written in stone the moment they started.
Right.
It's something that's going to be evolving over the years. And believe me, if there's a situation where your child has a problem, first of all, I don't think the issue is waiting in line. I don't think that's the issue.
Right.
I think the issue is geography.
Yeah.
I think the issue is geography. I think it's going to the rides and, you know, getting stamped and whatever you have to do to, you know, the legwork that you have to do to get on the rides.
Yeah.
So that is an issue.
Yeah.
And that is one of the notes that we gave.
Yeah.
You know, and so the issue I see is we have to make sure, Autism Speaks has to make sure that, you know, they're vocal with Disney about what they think will make it better. We have been. We will continue to be.
Yeah.
And that's the story.
Yeah. And I think as well, and I think it's great because Autism Speaks has a big megaphone on the playground. Let's be honest about that. And I appreciate that you guys have a big megaphone on the playground. But I'm always mindful of the fact that I, as a parent, still have a megaphone.
Yes, you do.
And that it's up to me. I can't ever count. I appreciate and celebrate when Autism Speaks says something big in a megaphone that I go, yay, team. But I also like to think of myself as the who, the little Horton hears a who, and when enough of us say enough things, it doesn't matter whether somebody else has the big megaphone. So it's up to me to make sure that my voice gets heard on these things as well.
Absolutely. And I would say that about anything.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
I mean, you know, I don't think anyone should ever let, you know, an organization speak 100% for them.
Yeah.
I think people have to be vocal.
Yes.
And I keep saying this everywhere I go. Autism is an invisible disorder. It's invisible.
Yeah.
Most people out there don't understand it. They don't know it. They don't want to know it.
Yeah.
And they don't want to have anything to do with it.
Yeah.
And they just don't get it.
No.
And that's why we have to make sure that we say what we say and that we go out and be as vocal as we can, as loud as we can. It's an important thing because you know, awareness is a constant thing. It's an ongoing thing. Advocacy is an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we're pulling teeth here.
Yeah.
Everywhere we go, we're pulling teeth.
Yeah.
To getting people to pay attention.
Yes, and I think that in general, just like with Disney, the intention is good. I'm sure you know people, I know people in my life who feel like they think they understand autism.
Right.
And we both know they don't.
And I don't think they're claiming I don't think they're saying they understand autism. I think what they're saying is we've got a problem here.
Yeah.
We've got to fix it. This is what we're going to do. You know, hopefully it'll you know, make everyone happy.
Right.
You know, I don't think they expected the backlash. We told them there would be brushback. You know, we told them you're going to have some brushback on this.
Yes.
Because you know, our reaction at first was, oh my goodness, why are you doing that? But I don't think they expected the brushback they're getting.
Yeah.
But I urge everyone to just be vocal.
Yep.
Look at what they have. Go experience it once.
Yeah.
Give your notes.
Yes.
And let's make this a change for the better.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. But I also would like to say too that we all need to find a way to be on the playground together and not assume the worst when an organization that we know intends well.
I agree.
You know,
and you know, I've got to be honest with you. That's been one of the most difficult things for me in this whole thing is seeing good friends from other organizations come out strongly against something that we didn't even do.
Okay.
And that's been a bit surprising to me.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm very open about who I am, what I do, and how much I believe in Autism Speaks, and I believe in all the other organizations too. And you know, I was a bit taken aback and surprised by by I would say the vitriol of some of the emails I read.
Yeah, well, I can only imagine because I know what I've seen online. There's been a lot said. But I just want to say we do applaud all the good work that Autism Speaks has done, and I appreciate you coming in to clarify Autism Speaks part, very small part, as I now understand it, in this change that's happening.
I just want to add,
Yes.
I don't want to, and one thing I don't want to cloud over is something that we did that I think is really great with Disney, which is we have a guide that will be downloadable probably around the same time that this takes place.
Okay.
For people with cognitive disabilities who are going to the park and who are, who want to experience the park. So that, I'm really proud of that.
And you should be. And one of the things that I said when I had the Disney people on the phone, I said, we've given you guys have been so good to us that we've given you a pass on the fact that when we go to the Disney special different needs page online, they have a section for people who have visual impairments.
Yeah.
They have a section for people who have hearing impairments. They have a section for people who are in wheelchairs and a section for people who are light sensitive, and that is it. And I said, where is the paragraph on people who have autism-related issues? And there was no response to that.
They didn't.
What I
They didn't
would have
respond to
loved,
that. Interesting.
no. What I would have loved was to have heard them say, "That's what we've been working on with Autism Speaks."
Why didn't they say that?
I don't know. But it may be because we were, talking about so many other things. It didn't occur to them. I don't know. But so I'm thrilled to hear that because I do take issue with that. I personally, and I know many other people have looked the other way on that from Disneyland because of the guest assistance pass, which made it the happiest place on earth.
Exactly.
So
Well,
we'll give you a pass on that. But so I'm thrilled that you guys were very involved in that. It needed to be done.
I completely agree, and that's been something that we've been talking to them about for months, and and it's going to be very nice for people because they're going to be able to look at it. They're actually going to be able to look from ride to ride and see is there this in that ride? Is there that in that ride? Is there smell in that ride? Is there is there a big fall in that ride? And it's going to explain to people who are sensitive in a certain way why it might be trouble for them, and I think. That's great.
That's remarkable.
I applaud that.
You should be celebrating that this week.
I think so. but it's rough.
It's not easy being a big organization.
What's life without a couple of bumps?
That's right. Well, I so appreciate you on all levels taking the time to come in and clarify that with us.
It's my pleasure.
And so appreciate the work that you do. And thank you for all that you do.
Thank you. Thank you for all that you do, Shannon.
Well, thanks. I'm having a great time here. I get to learn and grow. Thanks.
Yeah.
It needs to be trimmed a little bit, but I'm loving the gray thing.
I like it.
It's
working for you.
Well, I said earlier, I'm jealous you have lost so much weight that you look fabulous.
Thank you. Thank you.
I am so
feel
jealous. You've lost weight, my husband has lost weight, and I just keep finding it. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen.
I didn't give mine to you. So.
Are you sure?
No,
Because I've been picking it up from strangers. I'm pretty sure it's like that gum that you find on the corner that you decide to take that you shouldn't. I'm just picking up extra weight.
It's like Elf.
Exactly. All right. Well, we're going to say goodbye to Matt. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back with Angela Persicke, board certified behavior analyst. She's going to be answering your questions here live. Stick with us.
Here to do some more cooking. Are you ready? Allergy-friendly fun, and I've got a guest.
I'm Jamie Davis. Yes, I'm her sister.
Today we're all about cooking something really fun and healthy. That's a dessert. We're going to actually use carrots, real carrots, and we're going to talk about how to make the best tasting carrot cake you could ever hope for. So it's really easy. You don't want to buy the carrots that are the baby carrots. Why?
Well, those aren't really carrots. What they do is they take carrots, they mush them all up, they take whatever the carrot looks like, they throw it in a bin, they bleach them, and they process them, and then they have a little machine that makes them into little formed baby carrots. So we're really not born that way.
So this is what a carrot really looks like?
Yeah.
Awesome. Good to know. So I just want to show everybody how to make really simply. We just washed off the carrots. They were really dirty from the farmer's market. And we're going to throw them in to to our food processor. So what's good about the food processor is that we can go for a really fine grade. So I'm going to go ahead and add the 3 cups of carrots. Then the next thing I'm going to pull in is our gluten-free, casein-free flours. I'm using a protein-based flour. Bob's Red Mill is great. I also have my flaxseed meal and pure cane sugar that's organic. I cut it down already, so you don't need to cut it again.
And one of the reasons why we like to use organic sugar is because, once again, most sugars on the market are bleached to make them look perfect.
Yeah, we don't like perfect.
No.
We like ours.
That's why we like each other.
All right, so we've added our baking soda, baking powder, xanthan gum, nutmeg, and salt. Now, again, why we use the gums is that's the ingredient that actually holds the flour together. Regular flour automatically has enough gluten. This is the replacement to the gluten. These are the secret ingredients for the cake itself. 3/4 cup of the crushed pineapple is in there. It gives it a beautiful texture and flavor. And now what I'm using is the oil. What are your favorite oils, Jamie?
I like using coconut oil any chance I
Yes.
get. In fact, coconut oil would be excellent in a carrot cake.
Now what I did was I reserved a little bit of the oil and we placed it in the bottom of that pan so it doesn't stick.
Yep.
But we love the baking stones.
Yes.
Why do we love the baking stones?
Evenly cooks.
Yes.
And easy cleanup.
If you like crispy, you got to get a baking stone. I also feel that they're less toxic. So now I'm going to cook this thing at 350 for about 35 minutes. You really want to get it golden. Let's get it in there. Awesome. So now that we got our cake all done, let's get on with the frosting. Coconut oil, probably the best thing in the world you can eat. It's so good for your brain. One of the best oils that we can use. So I'm going to use a 1/3 cup of the coconut oil, and then we're going to do 1 teaspoon of an organic vanilla, Madagascar, and make sure it's alcohol-free. And then what we're going to do is add 16 ounces of organic powdered sugar. And we're going to add our 4 to 6 tablespoons of coconut milk. I'm using the whisk version here on the KitchenAid, which will give it a nice mix. All right, so if you get any on the sides, you just come on in with your little spatula. And this makes the best frosting for the cake. So we're almost done whipping it up. And voila! We are talking good stuff right here. We have the best situation for the best birthday cake, especially if you want to deal with something that perhaps has a little less sugar. You've got a great cake that no one will know the difference. I'm not a decorator. I don't like to decorate. I just want to eat it, and I don't care what it looks like. Ask my family. I'm a family with autism. I just want to eat the cake. Are you ready to do this? It can be your birthday. Yay! So to me, this is so good. It's meant to be gooey, as you can see. But what I love about this is a great birthday cake with extra frosting to make your kids happy. A little less sugar and a lot of love. So if you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you. You can email us at autismlive@gmail.com, and on Facebook, Facebook/autismlive. And then you can reach me and Jamie and get some more ideas from the taco recipe side. So let's have some more cake.
We say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Before we move on to our next segment, we had a question that came in via the email from the lovely Lisa Ackerman that you just saw from TACA and our What's Left cooking segment. And she wanted me to ask Matt Asner if Autism Speaks got a check or a donation from Disney for their endorsement of the new guest assistance pass or their involvement with the new guest assistance pass. I was able to ask Matt Asner that question as he was leaving, and his answer was no, unequivocally, absolutely not. So I'm glad that Lisa asked the question, and I'm glad that Matt was here to answer the question. Matt's response was no, absolutely not. And I think that those are important questions to ask and important questions to answer. Great question, Lisa. Great answer, Matt. Love it when we can clarify these things in one fell swoop. Okay. In the studio with us, though, now, live, is Angela Persicke. She is a board-certified behavior analyst, and she joins us on Thursday to answer your questions.
Yes.
So thank you so much for being here.
Anytime.
We have been off a little bit. We weren't here last week, so thrilled to have Angela back. And we've had a bunch of questions that have come in the last few weeks, and I want to get started right with them, but you can continue to ask questions live in real time on our feature at www.autism-live.com. Okay, so let's start with a 3-year-old. To the diagnosis, he was enrolled in a half-day early childhood program through our local school district. The question is, what kind of questions do we need to ask our school district now that we have this diagnosis? It's a great question.
Really good question, and I'm sure this is one of those times where there are so many things that you're just trying to figure out and know about this whole new life that you're going to be living.
Yeah.
And it's a tough time, and this is great that you're reaching out and asking these questions. First of all, for a 3-year-old, of course, we've said this many times that the recommendation based on research is early intensive behavior therapy, one-on-one, and about 30 to 40 hours a week. So we always recommend that based on the research. That is what is recommended for a child just getting a diagnosis, especially at the age of 3. Now, depending on where you live, of course, funding varies, and if insurance covers this type of treatment or not, but definitely ask the school district what kind of programs they have available for your child. So do they have any type of autism-specific programs?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it more of a special day class that they offer? You want your child to be in an environment that really facilitates learning, and as we know, the early intensive behavior therapy is the best environment for this. So if your school district has an autism program that allows for that type of environment, then that's great. Otherwise, it's probably best if you reach out to the community and find maybe an autism treatment provider in your area.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Times are changing. Mm-hmm. And when my son was diagnosed with autism, we're talking basically almost 8 years ago now, I remember that moment where we had been getting services from our community, from the regional center, and had an early start program. Mm-hmm. But we were having to transition to the school district because when you turn 3 in most states, that's the school district is responsible for the educational component of your child's program. Mm-hmm. And it was a very scary time for me, and I felt like there are all these things that I should know that I don't know. I'm a former teacher, mm-hmm. and I felt out of the loop. Now at that time, there were books that I was reading about all these different things that were helping me to realize, but I went to the school district and I asked some questions, kind of the same things that you're suggesting about asking, do you have an ABA program? And I was told, yes, you are so lucky that you live in a community that has an ABA program. And I got a very quick lesson in that ABA is not equal in different places to different people. Mm-hmm. So I think not only is it important to do what Angela is suggesting, which is ask, is there an ABA program? But I'm going to suggest too that you have to go and look at it, yes, and consult with somebody, whether it's a friend or the experts that you're working with, about what good ABA program looks like, and come back and tell them, mm-hmm. This is what the program looked like. This is what the room looked like. Mm-hmm. This is what make sure that you go on a day when they have kids, mm-hmm. and that you can see them interacting with the kids. Here's what I saw. Is that what I should be seeing? Mm-hmm. Because you might realize they're doing something else.
Yes, and definitely look for, or actually listen for, when someone is talking to you, a teacher or principal, about this program, to listen for words like an eclectic approach, or a combination of different methods that we feel really work. Because the research does show as well that even high-intensity eclectic settings do not produce the same results as early intensive behavior therapy in a 1-to-1 ratio.
Right. So very important that you be aware of all that. I would tell you, don't think of it as going into battle at this point, but think of it as being on a recon mission where you're gonna get some information and come back and make a decision later on. Because the good news is that there are some schools out there that have now great ABA programs that are actually doing great ABA. So whereas 8 years ago, I think it would have been very easy to say, you know, just do the ABA program at home, which is what we did. You might be bypassing something that's really incredible. So you do have to check it out, have a little bit of faith, take a look and see. I would tell you that in a lot of cases, you're going to find that the school doesn't have what your child needs. And then I'm going to, so if you find that that isn't the case, but don't assume it to begin with, because they may have it. But if they don't, Angela, then what do you recommend as a BCBA if the school isn't having the program that's there? What do they need to do?
They definitely need to contact providers in the area, and you can go to CARD's website to see if there's a CARD office nearby. You can look also or talk to different parent groups in the area to find out what providers they may be working with as well. But if the school is not providing the type of treatment that is at the quality that your child deserves and needs, then you definitely need to look into probably in-home treatment or another, there might be a center-based treatment available, but definitely look into agencies that are providing early intensive behavior therapy.
And I have to ask you to comment on the fact that this window of time at a 3-year-old, so often we get parents who write us that have 6-year-olds or 7-year-olds who've just been diagnosed, and they talk to us from a place of tears and frustration of, I wished I'd had this information earlier, I didn't have it. And yet when we have parents who write into us that have 3- and 4-year-olds, it's so important. They're so lucky that they're in a window of time that if they take a certain amount of action, the research shows what?
Yes, the earlier the better. The earlier the child gets quality services in this 1-to-1 ratio, and again, the recommendation is 30 to 40 hours a week, that the outcomes are better for these children. And we're looking to, the research suggests that under 7. But
I'm thrilled that it's that old now.
Yes,
great.
Under 7, but also when a child is 3 and just diagnosed, there are only 3 years. Even though there's a lot of time there, like 3 years is a lot of time, but there are only 3 years of skills that you have to make up actually in this amount of time. And so when a child is 3, you might not see as many challenging behaviors as you would see as a child that was 6 years old getting a diagnosis or just trying to get services at that point. So at 3 years old, the child is learning these new ways to communicate that might be inappropriate, but you won't always see as many challenging behaviors until later when the child time after time learns very inappropriate ways to communicate. At 3 years old and intervening early, you can give the child the appropriate communication tools.
Yeah, somebody just said the analogy recently, it wasn't on the show, but they started talking about it's kind of like your mortgage, that if you were to get a month behind on your mortgage, it wouldn't be insurmountable. It would be some hard work. You'd have to do some hard work to get caught up in your mortgage. If you were 2 months behind, it's a lot more work. Excuse me, 3 months behind, and we're really starting to talk about, you know, there's some pressure building up. Are we going to be able to do this? But imagine if you were 2 years behind in your mortgage. How insurmountable, because if you were 2 years behind in your mortgage, you would have to say, we're not going to get caught up. That's just not going to happen. We got to renegotiate this deal and see if we can look at doing something else. And a lot of times with our kids on the autism spectrum, if you can get in there early enough, you can get caught up. When you've got the children who are 10 years of age and they're significantly behind, we start to look at goals in a different way. Not the giving up on the child, but saying, we're not going to get everything caught up, so we're going to look at what's most important and get that caught up. It becomes a different deal. So you don't want that to happen. happen.
No.
I can put you in touch with parents who are there, and it's a hard place to be. But if you've got a child who's 3 or 4, 5, 6, or even 7, it's time to knuckle down and do the hard work. 30 to 40 hours, not 15.
No.
We keep hearing all these people who are telling us that Easter Seals is telling them 15 hours with a 3-year-old. And Angela, I want to light my hair on fire.
Go for it.
I do, because it's going to be lawsuits down the road. I'm just going to throw that out there. It is going to be class action lawsuits down the road because it's giving the wrong prescription. There is no research to show that 15 hours is going to be enough for your child to reap the benefits. I'm sorry I get hepped up.
No, that's okay.
But I want parents to know this. It's so important. If there's somebody who's out there that's listening that has a 3 or 4-year-old, I want you to be moved today to make the phone call to make it happen so that your child gets what they deserve.
Yes.
It will make such a difference in their life. It will make such a difference in your life. You just can't even begin to know. I'm begging you.
And don't settle for, what the school district is willing to give you, and just ask these important questions.
Yeah.
And it is a hard decision to make because the school district, even for this individual who has your child, you've had your child in a program within that school district for a year or so, and so it's difficult to almost start over and go and find these other outlets. But if the school district is not giving you what your child deserves and what is recommended by the research, then it's time to go look elsewhere.
Yeah, and I think going back to the original questions, what question can you ask the school district? After you tour the facility and after you ask them what they have for ABA and after you've talked to somebody who knows what quality ABA looks like, some of the things that you can ask are, what kinds of outcomes are you having from this program? How many of these kids go on to be in completely included school without aids and are progressing and are at grade level? What kind of data do you have to show that? Somebody who's really on it and proud of the program will have those statistics for you, and somebody who doesn't, if they're not tracking the progress, huge red flag.
Yes.
Huge red flag out the gate. But I love and thank you for reiterating and saying that whatever they offer, you don't have to accept that. There are other options that are available to you. And I'm going to guess that if you're in a state that has an early childhood program, there's probably insurance funding that would allow you to get your child the most effective ABA that's available. Not 100% sure, but pretty sure of that. I hope you'll write into us and let us know what happens and what you decide to do. But this is a crucial year. Not to put pressure on you, but this is a year that a year from now you could be saying, wow, we are in an entirely different place than we were. That happened for us. Somewhere there's a blog, it was on our old site, about what a difference a year can make and what happened for my son in a year. It's amazing. I'll see if we can't locate that. Let's take a short break and then we're going to come back with some more questions for board certified behavior analyst Angela Persicke. Stick with us.
Skills is an online program that provides assessment, curriculum, positive behavior support planning for challenging behavior, and progress tracking, and it does this all in one place. The skills assessment and curriculum addresses 8 areas of development, which even includes advanced higher level areas such as executive functions and cognition, which pretty much makes skills the only ABA-based set of curricula for teaching more complex skills, things like problem solving, planning, self-management, perspective taking, and even inferring and predicting others' private events. Skills is a 4-step system. Step 1 is to add the child to your account. Step 2 is to start assessment. The skills assessment is the only ABA-based assessment with psychometric research demonstrating the language subscale to have excellent reliability. Every area of human functioning and typical child development from infancy to adolescence was researched, making the skills assessment the most comprehensive of its kind in the world, and we're quite proud of that.
Skills is easy to use. Simply click Start Assessment and begin answering questions. Or simply type in a keyword, find specific activities to assess, and add activities to treatment. Step 3. Choose activities. Once you've completed the assessment, Skills selects from a pool of 4,000 activities categorized by age, level, and skill type to provide you with exactly those activities each child needs. Start by choosing a curriculum, then a lesson, and finally an activity. Click the information icon to view prerequisites, ages in which targets develop, examples, and IEP goals. Click the video icon to watch a short video. Once you've identified an activity you want to teach, adding activities to treatment is a snap. Step 4. Start treatment. Here you can access customizable activity lesson details, add your own customized targets and exemplars, and edit an activity status such as introducing or mastering it. You can even print handouts such as worksheets, tracking forms, visual aids, and other materials. Skills also offers multiple progress charts mapping curriculum progress, lesson progress, and cumulative number of activities and targets mastered over time. The Skills language curriculum is categorized by verbal behavior type so that users can identify progress for verbal operants, such as echoics, mans, tax, and interverbals.
Skills is one of the only programs that provides the ability to write behavior intervention plans, or BIPs, for challenging behavior.
With just a few clicks, the outline of the behavior intervention plan is written for you and ready to be printed and implemented.
You can learn more about Skills today and get started by visiting us at www.skillsforautism.com, or you can call us at 877-975-4559. Skills. Progress starts here.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We have with us here in the studio the lovely and fabulous board-certified behavior analyst, Angela Persicke. Thank you for being here.
Of course.
And we have not said, for those who are just tuning in today, you are the Assistant Director of the Autism Research Group, and you guys have something going on tonight, I understand.
We do. We have a free parent workshop tonight from 6 to 7:30 in Thousand Oaks, and this workshop is entitled "Why Does My Kid Do That? Practical Tips for Helping Your Child Behave Better," and it's presented by Dr. Jonathan Tarbox. And it's a workshop, so it's more of a smaller group, and you get to ask questions and have Jonathan answer them, Dr. Tarbox answer them, and it's a great event. We're offering childcare as well for free.
Much do we love that.
Yep.
That's so smart.
And this is the beginning of a series of these parent workshops that we'll be doing. So for more information, or if you would like to attend tonight, we still have some room. You can email info@autismresearchgroup.org.
And that's a wonderful opportunity for you to go there and be there in person and ask questions of Dr. Tarbox in that format. Now, for those of you who are watching who don't live anywhere in the Los Angeles area and you're thinking, this is so unfair, I would remind you that he is with us every Friday in the second hour of the show, and you have the same opportunity to ask him questions in that format as well, and it's also free. So if you can't get there tonight, if you can, let's face it, in person there's just nothing like it, right? And then you have that immediacy of talking back and forth. But if you can't do that, he'll be here tomorrow, and you can ask your questions tomorrow. Now, Angela, I was going to move on to the next question, but we had some response from somebody. Is it normal for the school district to say they don't understand why to do an FBA for hand flapping, getting out of focus, taking off your shoes in class? The autism specialist said they can't say why. Is that what I should expect? And then they went on to say that this happened today at an IEP meeting. They said if it's because of the autism symptoms, they can't do an FBA. Give me your thoughts on this, please. Now, you know, it would be very easy for me to have the top of my head fly off and me run around screaming with my hair on fire. I've already mentioned doing that once today. This is what happens. This right here is what happens, and it's so disturbing. Now, I want you to weigh on this. I'm thinking that there's a very fine line here, because a lot of times the experts on the show will say, look, there is some behavior that it's really difficult to figure out what the actual reason is because it is automatically reinforcing.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean you can't do an FBA on it. Am I correct?
Correct.
Oh, yay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm learning something.
Correct. And if your child has an IEP, you are entitled to an FBA for behaviors that your child is exhibiting in the classroom. You are entitled to this. And any of those behaviors, I don't like to ever say that it's because of autism that this happens, because autism is characterized by skill deficits and excesses, and these are behavior excesses, and so these are things that we observe in the environment, and it's different for every single child, and so characterizing a child by these things puts you on the wrong track. It puts you on the track of this is just what the child does, and this won't go away. And that's not our outlook on behavior or anything, really. So just to get that out there at first, but also automatically reinforced behaviors are part of the FBA process, looking for those. Right. So there are 4 main categories. We look for attention-maintained behaviors, escape-maintained behaviors, access to tangibles or activities, and automatically reinforced.
You know what I call those? The 4 usual suspects.
Yep.
Because our kids behave in challenging ways for those 4 usual suspects. Those are the things that we look for first.
Yes, first.
But we can't assume ever, and should never, and no autism expert should ever assume and say, well, hand flapping is automatically reinforcing. Because in some kids, maybe in 98% of kids, it's automatically reinforcing. But help me out here, Angela. There could be that 2% where it's not. Maybe they're doing it to escape something.
Exactly. Especially, I can imagine cases where demands are in place, and maybe they involve writing. And if the child starts hand flapping, obviously he or she cannot write at the same time he's hand flapping. Maybe there's an escape component there. And the thing is, we don't really know until we look to the environment and to the patterns within the environment and conduct FBAs to see if what we think is happening is actually happening.
Right.
And a lot of times it isn't the case that what we think is happening is actually happening.
So moving forward for this parent, because they're in the frustrating position of having, these are the people that they're sitting down at the IEP meeting, and I'm trying to put myself in your shoes and imagine, okay, what would I do if I realize that these are the people that I'm talking to? And my first go-to, and tell me how effective this might or might not be, is that I would want to say back to them, okay, I hear you saying that you don't want to do an FBA on this behavior. Is that because you've already decided that it's an automatically reinforcing behavior? And if so, what are you basing that on? Would that be an effective thing to say?
That's a great question, and also not just that, what are you basing it on, but also what are you planning to do about it?
Right.
Because it can't just be left as this is just what the child does, it's part of autism, so we're not going to address it, and that's not a good place to go. It needs to, there needs to be a plan, and even automatically reinforced behaviors can be intervened upon. We can do things to eliminate these behaviors so that the child is especially in a school setting, is able to learn in that environment and not be distracted by things occurring, even these automatically reinforced behaviors.
Yeah, and let's remember, I mean, I get really frustrated sometimes that we're all forced to be in circumstances with people who don't know these things in schools. Let's remember, though, let me take a step back and say that it may just be a case of that they just don't know. They haven't been given the training. I mean, I can think of a circumstance a couple of years ago where where I met a fabulous teacher outside of my son's school who was talking about a circumstance in her school with a child who kept running out of the classroom and just would run across the field, and the way in which the school was dealing with it. And she talked about, it's so sad that this child can't sit in the classroom. And I said to her, you do realize that there are interventions that could take care of this very quickly. And her response to me, she said, there are. And I hugged her and I said, yes, let's talk. But people don't know. They think, oh, well, that's just going to happen. And we have to enlighten school staff. It's hard. You have to be nice about it. But start with asking some questions about, have you already decided that this is automatically reinforcing? And I love this idea of, and what are you going to do about it? It's very likely, if they have dismissed it in this way, that they do not know how to write a behavior intervention plan for automatically reinforcing things. I certainly would suggest hiring your own BCBA to come in and consult on this. What would you think of that?
I think that would be a great idea, especially if, and it sounds like maybe the school district doesn't have a BCBA, because sometimes an autism specialist is not a BCBA a lot of times. So,
and equally, you could have a BCBA who has no experience with autism.
Exactly.
That might be how the school met their requirement of having a BCBA, but they did it with a corporation, with adults, and don't know autism at all.
Yes, it's very possible, and so that would be a good place to start if after you ask those questions that they don't have good answers for them, they're not able to tell you how they came to the conclusion that the behavior was automatically reinforced, and they don't have a plan in place of how to deal with it in the classroom, then it would be a good idea to seek out consultation from a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with children with autism.
And if your child, you haven't told us how old the child is, but if your child is engaging in all these behaviors, I sincerely hope that you're working with really good quality ABA provider anyway, and they may be able to go in. One of the things that we did, I didn't have to go hire a BCBA. I had to get approval from the school, and they would only let them come in 20 minutes at a time with someone else watching, but would bring in the BCBA that we were working with from CARD, and they would observe and make recommendations and be a part of making the behavior intervention plan. It's a consultancy service, and you can ask the school to pay for it. Your insurance may pay for it, or you might be with another funding source that pays for it, or you may need to pay for it out of pocket. But it would be worth it to get the right behavior intervention plan in, and not people who have just said, well, that's autism. No, my friends. No. Oh, that's so disappointing. And yet it happens all the time. All the time. And we thank you for writing in about that. We're almost out of time, but I'm going to squeeze one more question in here. Somebody wrote in and said that they want to know, learn about acting out, using timeout versus not using timeouts. How effective are timeouts? What would you like to say?
Okay. Well, I want to start out just with almost like a caution to everybody who would like to use timeout, that it can be used incorrectly all the time. It happens all the time. We see it used incorrectly all the time. And if you haven't tried other less intrusive interventions, because timeout is a form of punishment. It's an intervention that we classify as a form of punishment. So if you haven't used less intrusive interventions, such as differential reinforcement, and we could have a whole segment on that.
Yes, we could.
But if
Maybe
you
we should next week.
Yeah, and if you haven't used these less intrusive types of intervention, I wouldn't even recommend using timeout. So. And then also, if you do decide to use timeout, you have to understand that it has to be only for behaviors that function as access to activities or tangibles, and or to get attention. If the child is escaping demands, it is not going to be effective, because the child is actually escaping the environment that has the demands placed on them. Or if it's an automatically reinforced behavior, Of course, in timeout, the child is able to engage in that same automatically reinforced behavior,
Right.
so that it would not be effective in those conditions. But there are a lot of times that it is used very incorrectly, and so it's just caution that if you're going to use it, you need to think about it very carefully and understand what the behavior, how the behavior is functioning, and also other interventions with reinforcement components need to be in place as well.
Yeah, it's a tool that can be useful if used correctly, but the way I came to think of it is if my son had a cut that needed stitches, while I can sew, I would never know how to sew the stitches up correctly, and I would need a great deal of supervision. I could do it. If somebody was standing there and talking me through it, I could do it, but I wouldn't attempt to do it otherwise. And that's exactly how I think of a timeout, that I would never do it without somebody helping me, because otherwise it's likely to be ineffective and cause more problems. The person that we were talking about with the FBA wrote back and said, is the FBA supposed to tell us why this behavior happens? Because they assured me they can't tell us why. They will tell us when and where, and they wrote back that the child is 6 years old. I think the misunderstanding here, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that what the FBA tells us is the function of the behavior. Sometimes we can't know the absolute total why. Like we sometimes can't know why a child flaps, what it is particularly that's exciting about it, but we can find out whether it's automatically reinforcing or whether it's to get out of something or to gain attention or to gain access to something.
Exactly. It depends what you're talking about when you're asking the question why and cause, and this like what is the underlying reason for this, and that's not something we necessarily look to. We look at environmental variables that are maintaining this behavior, and
what's the paycheck?
Yeah, why is the child, like, what is the child getting out of it? That's what we're looking for. And
that affects how you intervene.
Exactly.
I'm rushing you because we're about out of time. Emily, we probably don't have time to tell you all the different ways that you can watch the show, but I am going to tell you that tomorrow we will have Dr. Adele Nadowski with us, and we will have Dr. Jonathan Tarbox. So all of that and ever so much more tomorrow. You won't want to miss that. But as we close, I want to say thank you so much to this parent with questions about the FBA. If you have more questions, keep writing them in. We'll be able to ask them of Dr. Nadowski and Dr. Tarbox tomorrow. You're not alone, ever alone. We're out of time, but thank you, Angela, and please give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.